Hi, I'm Tony. I'm an author, presenter at Sky Sports, and years ago I went to the jungle and got ill. Very ill. So this is my podcast adventure to find more energy. It's packed with biohacking, science, health tech, supplements, and some of the most well-known experts on the planet.
This is something I spent 4 months of my life doing with electrodes glued to my head so that you can do a lifetime worth of meditation.
Decide what you don't give a fuck about, which is something you don't care about.
Some of it gets quite out there.
I had some stem cells sent up to my house that I had stored, and then I injected myself with mannitol.
And we even hack hangovers.
Alcohol is poisonous. So is water and oxygen in the wrong dosage.
So that's my podcast, Zestology. Live life with energy, vitality, and motivation. And today on Zestology, looking at the power of smell. Looking at the way that essential oils and other smells can help boost our wellness, give us more energy, help us manage anxiety and reassure us, and even help us quit smoking as well. Specifically, looking at the way that essential oils can do that. And there's a lot of science behind this as well. Braeden Pauls is the co-founder and CEO of FÜM and knows a lot about the power of smell. He is my guest today on Zestology. He's on a mission to create a world with more positive habits. And one of the things that I really love about this is the fact that I feel that it taps into this kind of ancestral wisdom around essential oils and the power of using oil for healing. So really looking forward to talking to him. I know you're going to love this podcast because I learned so much. It really has been one of my favourites in ages. And in terms of what they've done with FÜM, it's really interesting. It's like this kind of essential oils inhaler, completely natural, and you get the same amount of essential oils in a couple of chugs on this that you would if you had a vaporizer or a kind of essential oil machine in your room that was running for a couple of hours. And you can use it for all sorts of things. Headaches, anxiety, immunity, energy, very on point for this podcast, allergies, and even quitting smoking naturally as well. So that is today's podcast. I hope you enjoy it. I started off this chat with Braeden Pauls by asking him a little bit about the power of smell and reminiscing on a particular smell from my own past. My background is in NLP, which is all about the way that you perceive the world from a sensory perspective. And, the three main senses are kind of sight and sound and touch. But then you've got the olfactory and the gustatory as well. And the olfactory, the smell, it's so powerful. My first girlfriend, I don't hanker after her in any way, but when I smell someone who's wearing the perfume that she used to wear, it just takes me straight back to 2001.
Yeah, exactly. Right back to that spot, or like if you're, just that meal. If, for example, if your grandma always made a certain meal, and then you walk into some house somewhere, and you're just like, this feels like home, and I have so many positive emotions, and it's just because this person made the certain dessert in a certain way, and it just brings me right back to that moment with my grandma, right? Like it's crazy the way that works. And I think it's because it's, I don't know, like you said, it's not one of the main senses that we focus on, so thus it can be something that we can I think we kind of forget about it. And like from a sort of perspective of saying, how can we live with more wellness and how can we optimize our human experience, I think it's something that we haven't really typically included in the conversation very much.
One of the things I really love is to think about kind of primal knowledge, ancestral knowledge. And I think this kind of fits the bill quite nicely. One of those things that our ancestors would totally treat things with smells and essential oils and all the kind of the forgotten wisdom of herbs and spices that now we perhaps don't think about. But this, I suppose there is a real ancestral component to using the power of smell and the olfactory sense to heal.
Definitely. Yeah. And that's been around for a long time. Like the first kind of historical record that we have of this sort of distillation of scents for the purpose of aromatherapy would go back to Egypt, and that kind of started back then. But throughout history, you can look at there's quite a few different regions and different people groups that were using essential oils or plant extracts for the purpose of healing, for the purpose of triggering emotional states, and then just enjoyment in general, right?
Yeah.
I guess for me, I love forests, and I love just being able to go out in the forest, and it just brings me a lot of joy. And it's like those natural terpenes that you're getting when you're in a forest and you're smelling all the different plants and everything like that. That's not an experience that you can necessarily have in your urban life on the subway or something. But with essential oils and with something like FÜM, that actually starts to begin to be a journey that you can go on. And it's just so cool. And I think in our modern urban settings where most of us live, we're missing out a lot on those benefits, where that used to be kind of just integrated into our lives in a much more holistic way. And now, because of how everything's so regimented and kind of modern, we kind of miss out on that.
And I want to get on to FÜM in a second. I just wonder, is there much science around smells and essential oils in the area of healing, energy, wellness, sleep? I don't know about kind of scientific studies, but I'd be fascinated to know if there are any.
Yeah, so there's definitely been a lot of research. So the research kind of would sort of branch into two different categories for two different sort of benefit sort of sections. That it's kind of easier to think about it in regards to its physiological benefits and then its psychological benefits. And I guess just touching on the psychological ones first, that ability of scent to be able to trigger emotions has been something that has been studied, right? For example, I think lemon oil is one of the ones that's been sort of proven to lighten your mood and just kind of in general just promotes better mood. And lavender, for example, has also been shown in studies that people subjectively report that they are more calm and more relaxed when they're smelling lavender, right? And the studies go on in this regard, but it's very, very interesting how it seems like you were saying earlier, there's these sort of primal sort of systems that are triggered by these scents that then bring us into those different states. And then more on the physiological side, there would be also sort of the way that essential oils and those plant extracts would actually be interacting with our overall physiology, not just our brain, not just our sensory, but how do they interact with our blood flow? How do they interact with different molecules in our body? And with that, there's been some research that's shown that peppermint, for example, can be very good for actually increasing oxygenation in your breathing. It can be great for just pretty much, it's like as a vasodilator that it'll just bring more blood flow to different areas. There's been a little bit of research out there with headaches and peppermint. And so anyways, peppermint's obviously just an amazing one, but there's a lot of research into those different oils. And because because there's so many plants in the world, the amount of different essential oils that you can get and the effects of them, it ends up being quite a big list and quite a big undertaking to actually take that on. And thankfully there's been some work done, but I'm really excited to see more and more of that done in the world, because I think we're going to keep on discovering how these natural compounds can provide us with a lot of benefits without the negative effects of some of the things that we get with some of the bigger pharmaceutical type approaches.
Yeah. We mentioned peppermint. Obviously, these days of working from home, WFH at the moment, sometimes I will cut. Your package was anticipated with a great deal of excitement in this household, because sometimes I will go downstairs on a kind of work from home day and the whole of our downstairs will completely smell of peppermint from early in the morning because my wife likes to put some peppermint essential oils on, because she totally has for a long time, before we kind of heard about you guys, believed in the power of peppermint for kind of a relaxed focus that helps her with her meetings and spending a lot of time online. So it's interesting then that, one of the kind of principal ones that I've really enjoyed with FÜM is peppermint. Let's talk a bit more about the company then and what you guys do with smell. How did it all start? And were you just kind of rambling in a wood and smelt a nice smell of a forest and thought, I tell you what, it'd be great to have this on tap?
Not quite, not quite. That would be a great origin story.
You could just
But
make it
our
up.
story actually came from specifically peppermint. Seems like peppermint's the big
Yeah.
convo here today.
Yeah.
Gotta love peppermint. For us, my co-founders and I, we were actually working out, and we had sort of heard about how peppermint could be helpful with those effects of being able to open up your airways. And so we were pretty much using it to improve performance during a workout and just breathe better while you were working out. And so what the method was that we were using was kind of called tenting, where you would just take your essential oil bottle, put 3 or 4 drops on your hands, kind of rub it on your hands, and then sort of cup your hands over your face and just kind of breathe the air off of your hands, and just kind of sort of take it that way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it worked, and it worked quite well at it, and the experience is very good, that invigorating feel of peppermint and just being able to breathe better. But at the same time, while that experience is good, the actual experience of like having essential oils on your hands, and especially peppermint, I don't know, I hope you haven't had the experience, but if you had,
Oh,
you'll
nice.
resonate with me. If you've ever touched your hands to your eyes
Oh, yeah.
accidentally with a little bit of peppermint on it, that is not a good time.
No,
It's not.
no.
It's not great. So that was some of the issues that we were having. And then also, if you're using high quality essential oils, you put 4 drops on your hands, it's going to dissipate quite quickly into the air. And those are, it's like the ratio of how much peppermint it takes to get a single leaf, or sorry, a single drop of essential oil. That's wasteful. It's like we don't want to be wasting that goodness, right? So those were kind of the problems that we were looking at and thinking, hey, how could we do this better, and how could there be a better solution where we could use this in a more effective way? And so with that question, that sort of brought us on the journey of looking at what pretty much brought us on the journey of creating FÜM and designing it, and actually going through a few iterations, going through a few different types and designs, and kind of optimizing for aesthetics, optimizing for performance, and going through that process of designing the original FÜM. And it was really cool, because we had started with the product, and then we ended up sort of started as more of a craft business, where it was in the evenings on the side. And then we got to the point where we said, hey, I think this is a product that could benefit a lot of people in the world, and that this could be something that deserves to grow. And so we kind of took the jump and said, hey, we're going to launch this as a full-time business.
Wow.
And we're going to go for it. And with that, we ended up sort of releasing it into the market, and the FÜM family sort of ended up, people bought FÜMs and started using them for all of these different use cases that we hadn't even thought about. So we had originally kind of created it more for the exercise and peppermint sort of vein, but we ended up having people who were using it with, say, lavender for anxiety, or with eucalyptus for really improving their congestion, or some people were using sort of a peppermint eucalyptus combo for like reducing their allergies and different things, and we're having great success with it. And it was just so cool. And then sort of the crown jewel of all of it is that we started getting a lot of feedback from people that they're like, hey, I'm using this to quit smoking, and it's really helping me a lot. And at that point, we are also doing a lot more research as a company, and came across some research that was showing the effects of black pepper on smoking cessation. And that there's actually been some documented research that shows that black pepper essential oil, when sort of inhaled, can be very effective for helping people reduce nicotine cravings. And so upon hearing that, we were so excited, because this is a huge problem in the world right now. Like, number one cause of preventable death with smoking, that it's like, I don't think it gets the attention that it deserves. I think it's kind of been one of those problems that as a general in society, we've kind of just sort of shrugged and kind of given up on it, because it's like, hey, people are going to smoke, and that's just the way that it is. But the data would show that 55% of smokers try to quit every year, and that only about 8% of those are actually successful in quitting. And those numbers are just staggering. So the need there for innovation and for finding products that, that are natural and that aren't just for people that aren't just trading chemicals for chemicals, we saw a huge need there. So that was a really interesting area that we ended up diving into a lot deeper. Yeah, and that's kind of been our journey as a company, and now we're continuing to grow and continuing to expand and continuing to find more research and partner with more companies to be able to bring these benefits to a wider audience, and it's been a ton of fun.
Yeah, great. So I can't believe you didn't. It wasn't even going to be a full-time venture at first, and it just kind of turned
No.
into one. That's the sign of something that works, isn't it? That kind of takes off.
Exactly. Yeah. Like for us, there was kind of that critical point where you're looking at something and like obviously I was using Fume for myself and was very much enjoying it. And we were kind of seeing that, hey, when we actually shared this with people, pretty much everybody was having the reaction of, wow, this is so cool. What is this? Like, and and then if they actually got the experience of how Fume worked, it was like, again, that wow experience. And when you're getting that experience with people 9 out of 10 times, when you're sharing something with them,
Yeah.
that's a good sign that, hey, this is something that has some potential to actually have a lot of impact in the world.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, what a fun journey for you guys, and working on a very innovative startup that is doing something very different to what other companies do. So it's nice to do something so different, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And I'm it obviously sometimes there's a lot more difficulties with it than, say, for example, we look at other companies and they're developing a t-shirt brand or something like that, and
Yeah.
we're like, wow, that looks quite easy. And
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
sometimes you get a little bit weary because it's a lot harder to innovate a natural health product and to educate and to bring that to the market. But at the same time, while it is harder, the the results that we get, the feedback that we get from people, and what we're able to help people accomplish in the world, it's immense. And it's like I wouldn't trade that for anything. Getting those reviews, getting those feedback saying, "Hey, I've been a smoker for 20 years. I've tried a lot of different products to quit, and I've never found something that's actually helped me, but hey, I got a Fume and this helped me quit, and now I've been smoke free for like 3 months." That means the world to me. That means the world to our team, and that's really what keeps us driving, is hearing those experiences where people are able to kind of utilize our product and actually see that transformation in their life is so exciting.
Yeah, yeah. So essentially, it's a wooden inhaler. It's completely natural, and it makes it easy to efficiently inhale natural essential oils. And you mentioned something a little bit earlier about allergies. I don't know if you know, but my kind of ears pricked up at that, because one of the things that I like about the Fume is the fact that you can play around with it and you can come up with your own concoctions and your own blends. And I've got a separate kind of passion project site on histamine intolerance, which is an area that's something that I suffer from. And not that many people know about it, but the people who do know about it really put a lot of effort into trying to figure it out, because it's not a particularly straightforward condition. And weirdly, awareness of it is increasing quite quickly at the moment because of long COVID, and long COVID and histamine intolerance seem to be quite linked. But when you mentioned allergies, that really kind of pricked up my ears, because I thought, actually, I'd quite like to have a play around with my own kind of mix of something that you guys offer, and see if that could help with histamine intolerance. So what were you saying in terms of allergy? What might I look at there?
So typically people have been using a combination of peppermint and eucalyptus for the allergies. And it seems like what's happening there is like oftentimes, the restriction of airways is one of the main allergic sort of reactions and side effects, right, of that histamine reaction. And so it's kind of hard to know how it's interacting with the actual allergic reaction and how it's actually sort of helping you get over sort of the side effects of it. And at this point, the research is a little bit blurry on which is happening. Like, is it just helping you breathe better and opening up your airways when they're feeling constricted so you don't really feel your allergies?
Yeah.
Or is it actually going into some, more of a innate sort of reaction where it's actually combating that allergic reaction on more of a fundamental level. So at this point, that's a little bit unclear, but what is clear is that we have a lot of anecdotal evidence coming back from people saying that it is effective. Obviously, it would be so interesting to go deeper into that research to kind of validate that and see more of like on more of a micro level what's actually happening there.
Yeah. Well, what I'll do is I'll post on it in the histamine intolerance site, and people on that site are extremely committed, and I get such a lot of feedback per post. So it'd be really interesting to see what people come back with when they try it out, and we'll ask people to try and see what happens.
Yeah, and I'd be so interested to know. And it's like the more that we can kind of understand how it's working for people, the more we can also sort of form our research in the future and our blends and everything that we do to better serve people. At this point, we have so many different projects that we're working on where we're trying to figure out, there's a lot of research to be done where we want to be able to validate a lot more of these findings beyond the anecdotal evidence that people are sharing, to be able to bring that to a wider market and validate that. But then we kind of have to choose one at a time. So we would love to hear the results that people are having.
Yeah. And certainly when I kind of have a bit of a histamine flare up, especially when I eat certain foods, I will feel quite blocked up. And I have noticed with the FÜM inhaler, I do feel clearer, especially with the peppermint when I use it. So that's definitely a thing.
Yeah, no, super interesting, and it's really, really cool, and in some ways we also don't even know all of the other ways that different essential oils are going to be able to affect people positively, because it's such a big space, and there's so many plants in the world, and I think we're just starting to scratch the surface on understanding the benefits, and then more how to actually take those benefits and actually integrate them into our lives in a way that is repeatable, easy, simple. There's a lot to learn there.
Yeah. Interrupting this podcast for one moment, as I have an important question for you. Have you had bad gas lately? I know this may be an uncomfortable topic, but we need to talk about it because today's podcast partner will help you with that gas and that bloating. Because bad gas is a sign you have undigested food fermenting in your gut. And I'm very pleased that today's podcast partner can help you deal with it as it helps me. I won't go into too many details, but it does. P3OM will help you have less gas and a stronger immune system. It also improves digestion, speeds up metabolism, and increases your energy throughout the day. It's a probiotic and it's a hardcore one. What makes it different from other probiotics is that it survives the gastrointestinal tract. So it goes all the way through and it gets into the right place. It goes through your whole body to support both your gut and your entire immune response. It's a secret weapon, if you like, for reducing or eliminating bad gas and kind of upgrading your energy levels. And this podcast is all about energy. So you can get 10% off P3OM right now by going to bioptimizers.com/Zestology. You can use the code Zestology10 for 10% off. And if you go to bioptimizers.co.uk, if you're in the UK, you can also use the code Zestology10. So wherever you are in the world, use the code Zestology10 for 10% off P3OM, the patented probiotic that eats up excess sugar, eliminates bad bacteria fast, and sorts out your gas. It's difficult to talk about gas, isn't it? But I've just done it. Back to the show. And then I suppose a question which is slightly more kind of almost businessy than healthy, but where do you guys want to be in kind of 5 years' time? What's the ultimate aim of the company?
Yeah, that's a good question because we've realized that there's a lot of places that we can have impact as a company. For us, right now, 5 years from now, we would like to have given 1 million years of life expectancy back to people in the world, specifically to smokers. On average,
do you see that smoking might, in the end, be your biggest market?
Yeah, that's likely what we're going to be aiming at, because as far as the impact that we can have on the world, if somebody quits smoking, that's 10 years back on their life.
Yeah.
What is that worth? What is that worth? Like, there's no way you can put a monetary value on that. But and also for us as being a mission-driven company, like that's an immense impact that we would be able to have. That's people that are able to spend time with their grandkids. That's couples that aren't broken up. That's people that are able to not only get over smoking, but then live a life where they're not wheezing and hacking constantly. That's the money saved from cigarettes. That's all of those different things. So right now, that's what we're beginning to aim at and beginning to focus on, and just seeing how can we bring a natural solution to people in that quit smoking space. Because as of now, in that market, there is some good products out there that have been shown to help, but they're either more on the pharmaceutical side, they're either pharmaceutical, there's sort of more the talk therapy side, and then there would also be, a little bit of or just kind of cold turkey and a few
Yeah.
other options in that space, but not much there's nothing really good for options as far as if somebody wants to have something natural and sort of
Yeah.
plant-based
Yeah.
and not trading chemicals for chemicals, that there isn't anything in that space. And we see that as a huge opportunity to be able to serve people that we're really, really excited about.
And then, I mean, it's quite interesting, isn't it? Because there's two distinct markets. I mean, the smoking market is quite different from the wellness market. And I suppose most of the people who listen to this podcast will know people who smoke, probably don't smoke. But they'd be very interested in something like, I know you've got these shield cores, which is all about wellness and kind of using the essential oils to suppress the growth of bacteria. And that's
Yeah.
quite a different market, isn't it? But I love that one. You got the cinnamon and the clove and eucalyptus and lemon and orange and I think tangerine as well, all kind of combining, which is a great idea.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, there's Shield there with more of the antiviral effects of being able to help boost immunity and that type of thing and clean out those bacteria that you don't necessarily want. There was also, we've developed our reassurance blend, which kind of takes more of those psychological effects of different plants such as lavender, bergamot, cedarwood that have shown to have more of those calming properties for anxiety and that type of thing. And we also have our Conquer blend that we just came out with in the last sort of, I think it would be in the last month here, that's focused on helping people overcome those negative habits and that one's formulated with some black pepper, clove, and cinnamon, and a few other essential oils as well, just formulated around that, being able to help people with more of replacing those habits with something positive.
Yeah. Oh, it's absolutely brilliant what you guys are doing. Really, really excited to kind of know a bit more about it and to continue to use it as well. Something that I ask everybody, Braeden, is what is one book that you would recommend and one tip for living with more energy and vitality? So what is a book that's had either an impact on you or just something you've read recently which you think people would like? It can be fiction or non-fiction, anything you like, really.
Yeah. For me, I would say Mindset by Carol Dweck. It was actually a book that I've read it several times, and I think the first time I read it, it was about 5 years ago, but it just talks about the difference of a fixed mindset versus a learner's mindset. And for me, it's just such a foundational thing in life of how do you think, how do you perceive the world? And that perception of whether you see yourself as a learner or if you see yourself as being fixed is so foundational to everything else in life. And for me, really having that solid was such an impacting thing in sort of my growth as a person. And it's something that I'd recommend to anybody. It's a fairly short book and it's just full of so many insights on how to think better and how to actually set yourself up for success.
That's great. I have to definitely work at that, I think, a little bit. I got home yesterday after a couple of days working away, and my wife has been doing a 5-day yin teacher training online, and she said, I've got this technique that I want to try on you. And it was about 9 o'clock at night. I was knackered. But I thought, no, I've got to have an open mind here. It was like a 10-minute meditation. It was absolutely lovely. But all I really wanted to do at that point was read my book and go to bed. So I'm very glad I had a growth mindset at that point and I opened my mind to it.
That's the way to go. That's the way to go.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not easy. It's not the easy path.
No, that's me. By 9 o'clock at night, I'm ready to check out, really. But okay, what about one tip then for living with more energy and vitality?
So this is a tip that I have to keep on telling myself because it's true, but I find it hard to apply. Is to rest well, and to take a day off every week where you don't actually touch any work. It's something that I can struggle to do because I love my work. I love what I do, and I love having impact in the world. I love growing. I love all of those things. But at the same time, that love can also drive me into the ground. And I'm trying to learn how to actually slow down and rest. And it's this weird thing because I think obviously people in the wellness space and if you're biohacking space, it's all about optimization. How do I get the most done? How do I get the best performance? All these different things. And it's so counterintuitive to people with that personality, and I would include myself in that group, to say, hey, it's actually in my best interest to rest.
Yeah.
And that will be what actually optimizes me to get more done in the long term and to be healthier. And it's so hard because it's actually doing nothing.
Yeah.
And sort of separating yourself and giving yourself the space to rejuvenate. And it's something that I keep on telling myself, and I would encourage everybody in that is rest well. You deserve it. Take that time to actually rest.
Yeah. You get to meet a lot of type A people in this world, don't you? Don't you
Totally.
think? Like, especially entrepreneurs, especially in the health area, you have to put in those 18-hour days just to get it off the ground. And it's kind of second nature to us to be like that, but it's the opposite of what we really need.
Exactly, and you need a bit of that, but it needs to always be balanced because I can realize that too. If I'm not resting well, I'll go through a season and just start not having as much joy in it, stop having the creative ideas, stop having the passion, and it's like, oh, okay, there's something wrong here. And it's like the goal isn't to like double down and try to do more at that point. The goal is to actually kind of retract back a little bit so that you're ready to take it on even stronger tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. All good advice. Braeden's really, really enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tony. Glad I could get on.
Yeah, definitely. And people can go to FÜMessential.com. So that is FUMessential.com. And there's a code, isn't there? A Zestology discount code.
Correct. I think it's Zestology 10. I will have to double check that with my team, but I believe it's Zestology 10.
I'll check that. I think either Zestology or Zestology 10 will work. And that's 10% off any of the blends and products and stuff like that. So that's brilliant. And I really look forward to hearing what people get up to with the histamine intolerance as well. And actually, do you know what? I'm going to have a real play with that, and I will let you know myself, because that's really exciting, that area. And it's a very underexplored area. And I think I'm going to make it my mission for you guys to bring out an extra blend, an extra core, which will be a histamine intolerance core.
Right on. Let's do it.
Yeah, we need to think of a better name, a sexier name than histamine intolerance, but we'll work that one out.
I'll get my marketing team on it. We'll work on it.
Okay, good stuff. Braeden, thank you so much. Great to talk to you, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Right on. Thanks so much, Tony.
Thank you to Braeden, and thank you for listening to Zestology as well. As I say, I'm absolutely fascinated to know how you get on with FÜM, especially if you do have some kind of allergy, some kind of histamine intolerance as well. And also, this podcast is all about energy, and I do feel, especially when I first started using the peppermint, I did get quite a buzz from it. Weirdly, I was sitting next to Faith as well, and we both straight away felt like we'd had a kind of half espresso or something like that. So yeah, really interested to know what you think of it. If you go to FÜMessential.com and use the code Zestology or Zestology 10, you will get 10% off store wide, except for merchandise and bulk orders. So Zestology and Zestology 10 for 10% off across the store. And they ship all over the place as well. So let me know how you get on. I'm genuinely intrigued to know, and I think this could be the next big frontier in biohacking. So very exciting, and we will see what happens with that. That is pretty much it for Zestology today. Just before I go, we've talked a little bit about immunity and boosting our kind of wellness in this podcast. There's never a bad time to boost your immune system, but especially at the moment, it is really important to have a strong one, isn't it? It's the middle of winter. There's a pandemic on. We're in lockdown, so it's hard to get out. There's no vitamin D around because we're not getting enough sunshine. And I think probiotics are so important. P3OM is my go-to probiotic, and that is made by Bioptimizers. So if you go to bioptimizers.com/Zestology, you'll get all the latest on P3OM. Okay, Bioptimizers with a Z.com/Zestology. You can use the same promo code there, Zestology10, that you get you 10% off. There's never been a more important time to boost your immune system than today. P3OM, I do think it is so important to take probiotics, especially if you want to optimize the gut. And I find it good for kind of relaxation, kind of managing anxiety symptoms as well. So bioptimizers.com/Zestology, use that code Zestology10. And if you're in the UK, you can head to the UK Bioptimizers site and use the same code as well. And again, let me know how you get on. I'm all about getting good feedback on this podcast, having kind of podcast partners that I like and I use myself, and you letting me know what works so I can kind of copy you, basically, and learn from your research. Right, listen, thank you so much for listening to Zestology. Before I go, I want to tell you about who's coming up over the next few weeks. Next week, it's David Milburn. The week, we're talking about fresh air next week. And the week after that, a man with more than 1 million followers on Instagram, John Jaquish. And the weekend after that is going to be a hacks episode, which I'm particularly looking forward to, because I'm going to be talking about the percussive massage instrument that I've been using, which is astonishingly good. I'm going to be talking about a glucose monitor experience. I'm going to be talk about virtual reality goggles, using them for, actually that's probably a very old-fashioned way of talking about an Oculus, virtual reality goggles. But I've been using VR for meditation and Tai Chi, and I've got some interesting thoughts on that. I'm going to be talking on that podcast about supplements at night as well, specific supplements to help you sleep. We might even talk about FÜM a little bit more there, and do a little bit more essential oil research and see how that comes up in a few weeks' time as well. So that's coming in about 3 weeks' time. For now, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.